The silence in the massive crystalline chamber was absolute, broken only by the rhythmic pulsing of bioluminescent walls that seemed to breathe with the collective anxiety of 12,000 alien delegates. Ambassador David Kim stood at the center of the Galactic Council's judgment platform, a simple human figure dwarfed by the towering alien representatives that surrounded him in concentric circles, reaching up into the darkness above. The chamber itself was a marvel of alien engineering, carved from a single enormous crystal that had been grown over centuries to accommodate the galaxy's most powerful governing body. Each tier housed different species, from the gaseous ethereals floating in containment spheres to the massive rock-like Gronari, whose very presence caused micro-earthquakes in the structure. The air itself shimmered with translation fields, carrying thoughts and words between beings who had evolved on worlds so different they might as well have been separate universes. High Chancellor Vexthera, a being of pure energy contained within a geometric lattice, descended from the highest tier. Her voice resonated through every translation field simultaneously, creating an otherworldly harmony that made the crystal walls sing. Ambassador Kim, your species stands accused of the most serious violation in galactic law. Do you understand the gravity of these charges? Kim's response was calm, measured, and absolutely terrifying to every being in the chamber. Chancellor, with respect, I believe there may be some misunderstanding about our intentions. A ripple of unease passed through the assembly like a shockwave. General Corex of the Battlefleet Command, whose species had dominated galactic military strategy for 8 centuries, leaned forward in his massive exoskeleton. The sound of his breathing apparatus echoed ominously through the chamber. Misunderstanding? Your species has been monitoring our secure communications for 6 months. You've decoded military frequencies that took our best cryptographers decades to develop. Kim nodded thoughtfully. Yes, we noticed some interesting patterns in your transmission protocols. May I ask why you're using such inefficient encryption methods? The chamber erupted in chaos. Delegates from hundreds of species began communicating frantically in their native languages, creating a cacophony of sounds that ranged from subsonic rumbles to ultrasonic squeaks. Energy beings flickered with agitation, while mechanical species sparked and whirred with distress. Chancellor Vexithera's lattice structure flared brighter, demanding order. Inefficient? Ambassador Kim, those encryption protocols have protected galactic communications for over 2 millennia. I'm sure they have, Kim replied with genuine respect. But your quantum entanglement patterns are creating predictable resonance signatures. Anyone with basic pattern recognition software could identify the frequency variations within a few days of observation. Strategic advisor Zilthanar, whose gaseous form swirled with patterns of deep concern, projected his thoughts through the atmospheric processors. Basic pattern recognition? Our encryption systems were designed by the most advanced computational minds in the galaxy. Kim pulled out a simple tablet device that immediately sent another wave of panic through the assembly. Security Chief Morgeth's tentacles writhed as he recognized the device that had become legendary among intelligence services across the galaxy. Is that the device that interfaced with our quantum computers last month? Oh, this? Kim looked down at the tablet with mild surprise. This is just a standard Earth tablet. I use it for taking notes and running simple calculations. I wasn't aware it had interfaced with your systems. Your simple calculations optimized our quantum processing efficiency by 47%. Security Chief Morgeth's voice carried an edge of fear that his species rarely displayed. Our best technicians are still trying to understand how you did it. Kim's expression shifted to one of concern. I hope I didn't cause any problems. I was just doodling some mathematical relationships while I waited in your lobby. Sometimes I think better when I'm sketching out patterns. Science Minister Tothavel, whose crystalline form resonated with frequencies of disbelief, activated a holographic display. Ambassador Kim, show them your doodles. The tablet screen appeared as a massive hologram above the chamber, revealing what looked like casual sketches and mathematical notations. To the human eye, they appeared to be nothing more than random thoughts and drawings. To the assembled delegates, they represented revolutionary advances in quantum mechanics, faster-than-light communication, and energy manipulation that their civilizations had been working toward for centuries. These equations, Science Minister Tothavel continued, his voice barely controlled, solve problems that our most advanced research institutes have been working on for generations. Kim studied the hologram with obvious confusion. Really? They're just basic relationship mappings. I mean, the mathematical foundations are pretty straightforward once you account for dimensional bleed-through and quantum uncertainty principles. Defense Coordinator Haxamar, whose species had maintained military superiority through superior strategic planning, spoke with barely concealed alarm. Straightforward. Our strategic planning division has been trying to develop dimensional warfare capabilities for 3 centuries. Dimensional warfare? Kim's confusion deepened. These aren't weapon designs. These are theoretical frameworks for communication efficiency and energy optimization. Why would you want to use them for warfare? The question hung in the air like a physical presence. Every delegate in the chamber realized simultaneously that humanity wasn't just technologically advanced they were thinking about technology in ways that had never occurred to galactic civilization. Chancellor Vexthara's energy patterns shifted to frequencies associated with deep contemplation among her species. Ambassador Kim, your species has been in contact with galactic civilization for exactly 6 months, 14 days and 7 hours. In that time, you have demonstrated capabilities that challenge our understanding of technological development, strategic thinking, and scientific methodology. Kim nodded respectfully. We've learned an incredible amount from observing your civilizations. The diversity of approaches to problem solving has been fascinating. Observing our approaches, General Korex's breathing apparatus wheezed with what might have been panic. Ambassador, you haven't been observing our approaches. You've been improving them. I wouldn't say improving, Kim replied diplomatically. More like noticing inefficiencies. You have such elegant solutions to complex problems. But sometimes there are simpler ways to achieve the same results. Trade Minister Yekthor, whose species controlled galactic commerce, projected a financial analysis into the chamber's central display. Ambassador Kim, your simple improvements to our trade route calculations have increased shipping efficiency across 17 sectors by an average of 38%. Our economists estimate this will reshape galactic commerce within the next decade. Kim looked genuinely surprised. I only suggested optimizing your route algorithms to account for gravitational variance patterns. It seemed like an obvious adjustment. Obvious, Chancellor Vexthara repeated slowly. Ambassador Kim, nothing about your species' capabilities seems obvious to us. The chamber fell silent again as the full implications of the situation settled over the assembly. They were dealing with a species that viewed their most advanced technologies as inefficient, their most complex problems as straightforward, and their greatest achievements as obvious starting points for improvement. Kim looked around the chamber with growing awareness that something significant was happening. Chancellor, may I ask what exactly my species is accused of? Intelligence manipulation, technological espionage, and strategic infiltration, General Korex replied grimly. Kim considered this for a moment. And what penalty does galactic law prescribe for these charges? The silence stretched uncomfortably before Chancellor Vexthara answered. Complete isolation from galactic civilization, indefinitely. The weight of that statement filled the chamber like a physical force. Every delegate understood that they were witnessing a moment that would reshape galactic history one way or another. Kim nodded slowly. I see, and when will the trial begin? Ambassador Kim. Chancellor Vexthara's energy patterns shifted to frequencies of uncertainty. The trial began the moment you entered this chamber. The evidence chamber adjoining the main council hall was smaller, but no less intimidating. Its walls lined with holographic displays showing data streams that pulsed like arteries, carrying the lifeblood of galactic civilization. Ambassador Kim found himself surrounded by the council's most senior investigators, each representing species that had spent millennia perfecting the art of intelligence gathering and strategic analysis. Chief Investigator Nelvaran, whose spider-like form allowed her to interface directly with multiple data systems simultaneously, activated the central display array. Her species had evolved specifically for information processing, their neural networks capable of analyzing data patterns that would overwhelm most other beings. Ambassador Kim, we have compiled evidence of your species' activities since first contact. What you are about to see represents the most comprehensive intelligence analysis in galactic history. The displays came alive with streams of data, communication intercepts, and behavioral analysis reports that painted a picture so disturbing that several of the investigators had required psychological counseling after reviewing the complete files 6 months and 14 days ago. Chief Investigator Nelvaran began. Your exploration vessel Endeavour made first contact with our border patrol near the Kepler system. Standard first contact protocols were followed, with cultural exchange officers conducting preliminary assessments of your species, technological and social development. The central display showed the sleek human vessel approaching the massive Galactic Council patrol ship, a comparison that made the Earth ship look like a child's toy next to a skyscraper. Cultural exchange officer Mortim filed his initial report after a 12-hour interaction with your crew. Nelvaran continued. His assessment indicated that humanity had achieved basic interstellar travel, but remained centuries behind galactic standard technology. The recommendation was for limited contact and gradual introduction to galactic civilization over a period of several generations. Kim listened attentively, occasionally taking notes on his tablet in a way that made every investigator in the room unconsciously step back. Intelligence analyst Kekstar, whose crystalline matrix brain could process terabytes of information per second, took over the presentation. However, within 72 hours of that first contact, we began detecting anomalies in our communication networks. The display shifted to show network traffic patterns that looked like living organisms, growing and adapting in real time. These are the data signature traces from your ship's passive sensors during the initial contact period. Notice how they begin as simple observational scans but rapidly evolve into something far more sophisticated. Kim studied the patterns with obvious interest. Those sensor sweeps do look unusually adaptive. What were they scanning for? That's what we've been trying to determine for 6 months. Analyst Keksadar replied with barely concealed frustration. The scanning patterns appear to be learning our network architecture by observing data flow characteristics, transmission timing, and even power consumption variations. Interesting approach, Kim mused. It's essentially behavioral analysis applied to technological systems, like learning someone's personality by watching how they walk rather than listening to what they say. The investigators exchanged glances that communicated more alarm than words could convey. Security Chief Tavlon, whose species had evolved from apex predators and retained predatory instincts that made them ideal for security work, stepped forward aggressively. Ambassador Kim, that scanning technique allowed your ship to map our entire communication infrastructure without triggering a single security protocol. Kim looked genuinely surprised. Really? I would have thought your security systems would detect behavioral analysis patterns. Most sophisticated networks have adaptive countermeasures that adjust to observational learning algorithms. Most sophisticated networks do, Chief Investigator Nelvaran confirmed grimly. The problem is that your behavioral analysis was more sophisticated than our countermeasures. The displays shifted again, showing a timeline of events that made even the most experienced investigators uncomfortable. 3 days after first contact, we detected the first instances of what we initially assumed were minor system optimizations. Network traffic began flowing more efficiently, data processing speeds increased, and communication delays decreased across multiple sectors. At first, we thought these improvements were the result of routine system maintenance, Analyst Kekstar continued. But when we investigated further, we discovered that the optimizations were being implemented by our own AI systems, apparently of their own initiative. Kim frowned. Your AI systems started optimizing themselves? That sounds like emergent behavior development. Were they showing signs of increased autonomous learning? They were showing signs of learning patterns that they had never been programmed to recognize, Security Chief Tavlon replied. Patterns that perfectly match the sensor sweep characteristics from your ship. The central display now showed a complex web of interconnected events that looked like a virus spreading through galactic civilization's technological infrastructure. Within 2 weeks of first contact, similar optimization patterns began appearing in systems that had never been in direct contact with your ship. Research stations, military installations, civilian communication networks, even isolated scientific outposts. Kim studied the data with growing concern. How widespread did these optimizations become? 47% of all galactic communication networks showed improved efficiency within the first month, Chief Investigator Nelvaran answered. 82% within 3 months. As of yesterday, 96% of our technological infrastructure is running optimization protocols that can be traced back to your first contact event. And these optimizations, Kim asked carefully, are they causing problems? The silence that followed was more telling than any verbal response. That's the most disturbing aspect of this entire situation, analyst Kekstar finally admitted. The optimizations work. They work better than anything our best technicians have ever developed. They're so effective that disabling them would cause massive disruptions to galactic commerce, communication, and basic infrastructure. Security Chief Tavalon activated another display. This is our analysis of your ship's current capabilities based on observed improvements to your technology during your 6-month stay in our space. The display showed the human vessel Endeavor, but the technical specifications scrolling alongside it painted a picture that defied explanation. When you arrived, your ship's maximum velocity was approximately 12% of galactic standard. Your sensor range was limited to basic electromagnetic detection. Your computing power was roughly equivalent to our civilian recreational devices. Kim nodded. That sounds about right for our current technology level. Ambassador Kim, Security Chief Tavlon continued, according to our most recent observations, your ship now demonstrates capabilities that exceed our most advanced military vessels in several key areas. The technical specifications continued scrolling, showing improvements that should have been impossible. Your ship's sensors can now detect quantum fluctuations at ranges that surpass our dedicated scientific survey vessels. Your navigation systems demonstrate precision that rivals our most sophisticated automated guidance networks. Your communication array is transmitting on frequencies that our own equipment cannot generate. Kim looked confused. How is that possible? We haven't made any major modifications to our ship. That's exactly what makes this so alarming, Chief Investigator Nelvaron explained. Your ship appears to be learning and adapting using principles that we don't understand. It's not being modified ARO, it's evolving. Intelligence analyst Kekstar brought up another series of displays. We've documented 17 separate instances where your crew has provided helpful suggestions to our technical staff. In every case, implementing these suggestions has resulted in significant improvements to our systems. But here's what troubles us most, Chief Investigator Nelvaron continued. Your crew seems genuinely surprised when we point out how remarkable these improvements are. You appear to view revolutionary advances in galactic technology as obvious observations that any competent technician should have noticed. Kim considered this information carefully. I can see how that might be concerning from a security perspective. But isn't technological exchange one of the stated benefits of joining galactic civilization? Technological exchange typically occurs over decades or centuries, Security Chief Tavalon replied. It involves careful analysis, extensive testing, and gradual implementation to prevent systemic disruptions. What we're experiencing with humanity is more like a technological transformation occurring at a rate that threatens the stability of galactic civilization itself. The displays around the chamber showed complex projections and modeling scenarios that painted an increasingly alarming picture. Our strategic analysis indicates that if current trends continue, human technological influence will fundamentally reshape galactic civilization within the next 5 years, analyst Kekstar concluded. The private deliberation chamber existed in a space between spaces, accessible only through quantum tunneling technology that ensured absolute privacy from any form of surveillance or communication interference. The 18 most senior council members materialized within the shifting walls of the secure facility, their forms adjusted by the chamber's environmental systems to allow for optimal interaction. Despite their vastly different physiological requirements, Chancellor Vexithera's energy matrix stabilized. At the center of the chamber, her patterns dim with the weight of the decision they faced. We are here to determine the fate of humanity, and possibly the fate of galactic civilization itself. Let us speak without the diplomatic constraints that govern our public proceedings. Fleet Admiral Mordak, whose species had commanded galactic naval forces for over a millennium, was the first to break the uncomfortable silence. His massive armored form radiated the frustration that had been building throughout the evidence presentation. The situation is simple. Humanity represents an existential threat to the established order. Their technological influence is spreading faster than we can control it. and their capabilities are advancing at a rate that defies every model we have for species development. Strategic Advisor Ventalar, whose gaseous form swirled with patterns of deep analysis, projected her thoughts directly into the chamber's atmospheric system. The threat assessment is not that simple, Admiral. Our analysis indicates that humanity poses a different type of challenge than anything we have encountered in galactic history. Different how? Demanded General Kethmore, whose cybernetic enhancements allowed him to process tactical scenarios at superhuman speeds. They infiltrate our systems, decode our communications, and improve our technology without permission. In military terms, these are acts of warfare. But not hostile warfare, Advisor Ventalar countered. Every human intervention has resulted in improvements to our capabilities. They're not weakening our systems, Zero. They're making them stronger. This doesn't fit any historical pattern of species aggression. High Scientist Zorthek, whose crystalline neural network had solved more complex problems than any other being in galactic history, activated a holographic display that filled the chamber with swirling data patterns. I have completed the comprehensive analysis that was requested. The results are disturbing in ways that we did not anticipate. The display showed comparison charts that made several council members recoil in surprise. These are cognitive assessment profiles for humanity compared to established galactic species. Notice the pattern distribution. The charts revealed humanity's cognitive profile as a chaotic constellation of capabilities that seemed to violate every established principle of evolutionary development. Where other species showed logical, linear progression in specific areas of expertise, humanity displayed seemingly random spikes across multiple domains. Most species evolve specialized intelligence, High Scientist Zorthek explained. We excel at analysis, the Mordak species excels at strategic planning, the Ventalar species excels at long-term projection. Each species develops cognitive strengths that complement galactic civilization. And humanity? Chancellor Vexathara asked, though her energy pattern suggested she already suspected the answer. Humanity appears to excel at pattern recognition across multiple domains simultaneously, Zorthek replied. They don't solve problems through specialized expertise. They recognize solutions that already exist in patterns that we cannot perceive. Science Minister Nex Avon, whose biomechanical form had been optimized for research and analysis over countless generations, leaned forward with obvious concern. Are you saying that humans can see solutions that are invisible to us? I'm saying that human cognitive architecture allows them to process information in ways that produce insights that our logical, linear thinking cannot achieve, Zorthek clarified. It's not that they're more intelligent, they're differently intelligent in ways that complement our existing capabilities almost perfectly. Defense Coordinator Halrek, whose species had maintained galactic security through superior tactical analysis, activated his own display. Complement? Their capabilities are systematically undermining the technological advantages that maintain the balance of power between species. That's exactly the point, High Scientist Zorthek responded. They're not undermining advantages. They're making advantages irrelevant by finding solutions that benefit everyone simultaneously. The chamber fell silent as the implications settled over the assembled leaders. Trade, Administrator Yelnoth, whose species controlled interstellar commerce through superior economic modeling, spoke with obvious distress. The economic implications alone could destabilize galactic civilization. Our entire trade structure is based on species-specific technological advantages. If humanity can help every species achieve similar capabilities, the foundation of galactic economics collapses, or evolves into something more efficient, Strategic Advisor Ventalar countered. Our preliminary models suggest that human-optimized trade networks could increase overall galactic prosperity by factors we cannot currently calculate, at the cost of established power structures that have maintained peace for millennia. Fleet Admiral Mordak replied grimly. Prosperity means nothing if it leads to chaos and conflict. Chancellor Vexathera's energy patterns shifted to frequencies associated with deep contemplation. Show them the projection scenarios. High Scientist Zorthek activated a new display that filled the chamber with multiple timeline projections, each branching into dozens of potential futures. We have modeled 3 primary response scenarios to humanity's integration into galactic civilization. The first timeline showed controlled integration over several centuries, with humanity's influence carefully managed and limited. Scenario 1, Controlled Integration. We restrict human access to sensitive technologies and limit their involvement in galactic affairs. This scenario predicts stable but limited advancement for galactic civilization. The second timeline showed rapid integration with humanity, given full access to galactic resources and institutions. Scenario 2, Full Integration. We grant humanity complete membership status and allow unrestricted collaboration. This scenario predicts rapid advancement, but significant political instability as existing power structures adapt to human influence. The third timeline was more complex, showing multiple branching paths that led to radically different outcomes. Scenario 3, Isolation Protocol. We quarantine humanity and prohibit further contact with galactic civilization. Defense Coordinator Halrek studied the third scenario with obvious interest. What are the projected outcomes for isolation? Multiple possibilities, Zorthek replied grimly. Best case, humanity develops independently and remains a potential future ally. Worst case, humanity advances to technological superiority within 50 years and views our isolation protocol as an act of hostility. The chamber erupted in alarmed communications as council members processed the implications of that worst-case scenario. 50 years? General Kethamor's cybernetic system sparked with distress. How is that possible? Because isolation wouldn't stop human technological development, Zorthek explained. It would simply redirect their pattern recognition capabilities toward accelerated independent research. Without galactic resources to analyze and improve, they would focus on developing entirely new technological paradigms. Strategic Advisor Ventilar's gaseous form contracted with obvious anxiety. New paradigms that we wouldn't understand or be able to counter. Precisely, Zorthek confirmed. Isolation could transform humanity from a complementary species into an incomprehensible technological superior within a single generation. Science Minister Nexavon's biomechanical form clicked in word as he processed the information. What about the middle scenario? Full integration with careful monitoring? That scenario shows the highest probability of positive outcomes, Zorthek replied, but also the highest uncertainty factors. Human integration would accelerate galactic development beyond our ability to predict specific consequences. Chancellor Vexithera's energy patterns pulsed with decision-making frequencies. The fundamental question becomes whether we trust humanity to use their capabilities responsibly, or whether we view their very existence as an unacceptable risk to galactic stability. There's another factor we haven't discussed, Trade Administrator Yel Noth added reluctantly. According to our intelligence reports, humanity is completely unaware of how remarkable their capabilities appear to us. They genuinely believe that their insights and improvements are obvious observations that any intelligent species should be able to make. The weight of that observation settled over the chamber like a physical presence. They're not trying to destabilize galactic civilization, Chancellor Vexithara concluded. They're trying to help it become more efficient, and they're genuinely confused by our resistance to obvious improvements. Fleet Admiral Mordak's armored form resonated with frustrated acceptance, which makes them either the greatest allies or the greatest threats in galactic history, possibly both simultaneously. The chamber's environmental systems adjusted to accommodate the stress responses of 18 different. The main council chamber had been reconfigured for what would become known as the most significant diplomatic session in galactic history. Ambassador Kim returned to the central platform, but this time he was accompanied by Dr. Lisa Chen, Earth's senior xenocultural specialist, and Captain Marcus Torres of the exploration vessel Endeavour. The three humans stood calm and composed while 12,000 alien delegates watched with a mixture of fascination and terror. Chancellor Vexithara's energy matrix had stabilized into patterns that indicated formal proceeding protocols. Ambassador Kim, you have been informed of the charges against your species. You now have the opportunity to present humanity's defense before this council renders its judgment. Kim stepped forward, his simple presence somehow commanding attention from beings whose civilizations spanned millennia. Honored delegates, we appreciate this opportunity to address your concerns. However, I must admit that we're somewhat confused by the nature of these charges. A ripple of unease passed through the assembly. The humans' continued confusion about their own capabilities had become a source of deep anxiety among the council members. Dr. Chen, Kim continued, would you please explain humanity's perspective on our interactions with galactic civilization? Dr. Chen activated a simple holographic display that immediately caused security alerts throughout the chamber. Her device, like all human technology, had developed capabilities that exceeded its original specifications through exposure to galactic systems. Honored delegates, Dr. Chen began, humanity's approach to problem-solving is based on what we call collaborative optimization. We observe systems, identify inefficiencies, and suggest improvements that benefit everyone involved. The display showed examples of human collaboration throughout Earth's history, demonstrating how the species had developed complex civilizations through cooperative problem-solving rather than competitive dominance. When we encountered galactic civilization, Dr. Chen continued, we naturally applied the same approach. We observed your systems, noticed areas where efficiency could be improved, and offered suggestions that seemed obvious to us. Defense Coordinator Halreck's voice resonated through the chamber with barely controlled tension. Dr. Chen, your obvious suggestions have revolutionized technologies that took our civilization centuries to develop. Dr. Chen looked genuinely surprised. Really? I'm sorry if we overstepped. We assumed that such advanced civilizations would have already considered these optimizations and chosen not to implement them for reasons we didn't understand. The chamber fell silent except for the ambient hum of life support systems struggling to accommodate the stress responses of thousands of different species. Captain Torres stepped forward. If I may, Chancellor, I think there might be a fundamental misunderstanding about humanity's intentions and capabilities. Please explain. Captain Torres, Chancellor Vexathara replied, her energy patterns indicating cautious interest. Every improvement we've suggested has been offered freely, with no expectation of compensation or advantage, Torres began. We're not trying to gain power over galactic civilization. We're trying to contribute to it. He activated his own display, showing detailed records of human interactions with various alien species. In every case, our people have been transparent about their observations and methods. We've shared our reasoning, explained our thought processes, and offered to teach others how to recognize similar optimization opportunities. General Kethmore's cybernetic system sparked with confusion. Captain Torres, if you're willing to share your capabilities freely, what do you hope to gain from membership in galactic civilization? Torres smiled with obvious sincerity. Knowledge, perspective, the opportunity to learn from species that have solved problems we haven't even encountered yet, but you've demonstrated superior problem-solving capabilities in almost every area we've tested. Science Minister Nex Avon pointed out. What could we possibly teach you? Everything, Dr. Chen replied immediately. Captain, show them the cultural exchange reports. Torres brought up a new display that showed detailed studies of alien societies, technologies, and philosophical approaches. Every species we've encountered has developed unique solutions to universal challenges. Your approaches to social organization, resource management, and scientific methodology are fascinatingly different from ours. The display showed human researchers studying alien music, art, literature, and social structures with obvious enthusiasm and respect. For example, Dr. Chen continued, the Ventaler species' approach to long-term strategic planning has taught us new ways to think about multi-generational projects. The Zorthek crystal matrix computational method has inspired entirely new directions in our computer science research. And the Mordock military tactical frameworks, Captain Torres added, have helped us understand how to organize large-scale logistics operations more effectively. Fleet Admiral Mordock's armored form shifted with what might have been surprise. You've been learning from our tactical approaches? Absolutely, Torres confirmed. Your species' ability to coordinate complex operations across vast distances is remarkable. We've been studying your command structure methodologies and adapting them for our civilian infrastructure projects. Ambassador Kim stepped forward again. Honored delegates, I think the core issue here is that humanity processes information differently than other galactic species. But that doesn't make us superior. It makes us complementary. He gestured to his colleagues. Dr. Chen can recognize optimization patterns quickly, but she relies on Captain Torres's systematic implementation approach and my diplomatic experience to apply those insights appropriately. Similarly, Dr. Chen continued, Our insights are only valuable when combined with your species' specialized expertise. We can suggest improvements to your quantum communication systems, but we need your deep understanding of quantum mechanics to implement those improvements safely. Chancellor Vexithera's energy patterns shifted to frequencies associated with contemplation. Are you saying that humanity's capabilities are meant to be collaborative rather than independent? That's exactly what we're saying, Ambassador Kim confirmed. Humans evolved as social problem solvers. Our cognitive abilities are optimized for group collaboration, not individual dominance. Captain Torres activated another display showing Earth's cooperative achievements. Every major advancement in human history has resulted from collaboration between individuals with different cognitive strengths. Scientists working with engineers, artists collaborating with technicians, theoretical thinkers partnering with practical implementers. Our pattern recognition abilities are powerful, Dr. Chen explained, but they're designed to identify opportunities for collaborative improvement, not to replace existing systems or dominate other species. Strategic Advisor Ventaler's gaseous form swirled with patterns of growing understanding. You're proposing true cognitive symbiosis between species? We're proposing that galactic civilization could benefit from cognitive diversity, Ambassador Kim replied. Different species bringing different mental approaches to shared challenges. But what about the economic and political disruptions that your improvements would cause? Trade Administrator Yelnath asked. Dr. Chen looked thoughtful. Those are valid concerns. Perhaps the solution is gradual implementation of improvements, with careful attention to social and economic impacts. We could establish joint research initiatives, Captain Torres suggested, where human pattern recognition is combined with alien expertise and implementation proceeds at a pace that allows for social adaptation. Ambassador Kim nodded. We're not trying to transform galactic civilization overnight. We're hoping to contribute to its continued evolution in ways that benefit everyone. And if the Council determines that humanity's influence is too destabilizing, Chancellor Vexithara asked. The three humans exchanged glances before Kim responded. Then we would respect that decision and withdraw from galactic affairs. But we hope you'll consider that the alternative to managed change is often unmanaged change, which could be far more disruptive. The chamber buzzed with thousands of simultaneous conversations as delegates processed humanity's defense. The humans had not denied their capabilities or minimized the potential impact of their involvement in galactic affairs. Instead, they had offered a vision of controlled collaboration that addressed the Council's concerns while maximizing the benefits of human innovation. Chancellor. Vexithara's energy patterns stabilized into formal proceeding frequencies. The Council will now deliberate on humanity's proposal. All delegates will vote on the future of human-galactic relations within the next 6 hours. As the humans were escorted from the chamber, every delegate realized that they were about to make a decision that would determine whether galactic civilization embraced unprecedented change or chose the safety of familiar limitations. The vote would reshape the future of the galaxy, and nobody could predict with certainty whether that transformation would lead to unprecedented prosperity or unprecedented chaos. The Council chamber had been transformed into a voting amphitheater, with each of the 12,000 delegates positioned according to ancient protocols that ensured every voice would be heard and recorded for galactic history. The voting process itself would take hours, with each species presenting their position and casting their decision through quantum-verified systems that made fraud impossible. Chancellor Vexithara's energy matrix had expanded to fill the central space. Her patterns now visible to every delegate simultaneously. We face a decision that will define galactic civilization for millennia to come. Each species will present their position before casting their vote on humanity's integration into galactic society. The first to speak was Fleet Admiral Mordak, representing the military coalition that had maintained galactic security for over 1,000 years. His massive armored form projected authority that had never been challenged in living memory. The military analysis is clear. Humanity represents an unprecedented variable in galactic power dynamics. Their technological influence could destabilize the defensive systems that have prevented major conflicts for centuries. He activated tactical displays showing various scenarios. However, our strategic models also indicate that humanity's collaborative approach to problem-solving could revolutionize military coordination and conflict prevention. The military coalition votes for conditional integration, with mandatory joint oversight of all human research projects. A wave of surprise passed through the chamber. The military coalition's support for human integration, even with conditions, represented a significant shift from their earlier positions. Trade Administrator Yelnoth spoke next, her bioluminescent form pulsing with the complex calculations that governed galactic commerce. The economic implications of human integration are staggering. Their optimization capabilities could disrupt established trade relationships and technological advantages that have shaped galactic economics for millennia. She paused, allowing the weight of those economic concerns to settle over the assembly. But our projections also suggest that human-optimized trade networks could increase overall galactic prosperity by factors that exceed our current computational abilities. The Commercial Alliance votes for full integration, with gradual implementation protocols to minimize economic disruption. Science Minister Nexavon, whose biomechanical form had been optimized for research and analysis over countless generations, represented the scientific coalition that drove galactic technological advancement. The scientific evidence is conclusive. Human cognitive capabilities complement existing galactic knowledge in ways that could accelerate research and development beyond our most optimistic projections. His display showed research scenarios that painted pictures of breakthrough discoveries in physics, biology, and engineering. The scientific coalition unanimously supports full human integration with unrestricted research collaboration privileges. The pattern continued as coalition after coalition presented their analyses and cast their votes. The Cultural Preservation Alliance voted for limited integration to protect traditional ways of life. The Technological Development Coalition supported full integration with accelerated timeline protocols. The Philosophical Studies Alliance voted for controlled integration with extensive cultural exchange programs. As the voting progressed, a clear pattern emerged. Despite initial fears and concerns, the majority of galactic civilization was choosing to embrace humanity's integration rather than reject it. Strategic Advisor Ventalar, representing the longest-term planning coalition in galactic government, spoke near the end of the voting process. Her gaseous form swirled with patterns that indicated deep analysis and long-term projection capabilities that spanned geological timescales. The long-term strategic analysis indicates that humanity's integration into galactic civilization is not just beneficial. It may be essential for our continued survival and growth, she announced. Our species have reached a plateau in technological and social development. We have optimized our individual capabilities, but we have not learned to optimize our collective potential. Her words carried weight that made even the most skeptical delegates reconsider their positions. Humanity offers cognitive diversity that could unlock collaborative capabilities we have never achieved. The Strategic Planning Coalition votes for full integration with expanded collaborative framework protocols. Finally, Chancellor Vexithera called for the formal vote tally. The quantum voting systems compiled results from 12,000 individual delegates, representing every species in galactic civilization. The process took nearly an hour, as verification protocols ensured the accuracy and legitimacy of every vote. The results are as follows, Chancellor Vexithera announced, her energy patterns stabilizing into formal declaration frequencies. 7,432 votes for full integration, 3,897 votes for conditional integration, 671 votes for limited integration. The chamber erupted in communication as delegates processed the results. The overwhelming majority had chosen some form of integration over isolation or rejection. 0 votes for quarantine protocols, Chancellor Vexithera continued, and the significance of that unanimous rejection of isolation was not lost on anyone in the chamber. Ambassador Kim and his colleagues were escorted back to the central platform as Chancellor Vexithera prepared to announce the Council's official decision. By the authority vested in this Council by the unanimous consent of galactic civilization, Chancellor Vexithera declared, humanity is hereby granted full membership status in galactic society with the following protocols. The terms that followed represented the most comprehensive integration framework in galactic history. Human researchers would be embedded in joint research projects with alien scientists. Human optimization capabilities would be applied to galactic infrastructure, Through carefully managed collaborative programs, human diplomatic representatives would participate in all levels of galactic government, from local system administration to council-level strategic planning. Additionally, Chancellor Vexithara continued, this council establishes the Cognitive Diversity Initiative, a permanent program designed to identify and develop collaborative frameworks between species with complementary mental capabilities. The implications of that initiative sent waves of excitement through the scientific and cultural coalitions. Galactic civilization was not just accepting humanity, it was embracing the principle that cognitive diversity could drive continued advancement. Ambassador Kim, Chancellor Vexithara addressed the human delegation directly. Do you accept these terms on behalf of humanity? Kim looked at his colleagues, then back at the assembled delegates. We accept these terms with gratitude and with full understanding of the responsibilities they entail. Humanity pledges to use our capabilities in service of galactic civilizations, continued prosperity and growth. The chamber erupted in celebration as thousands of species acknowledged humanity's formal integration into galactic society. But beneath the celebration was a current of anticipation and uncertainty. Everyone understood that this moment marked the beginning of an unprecedented transformation. 6 months later, the first joint human-alien research facility produced breakthrough discoveries in quantum consciousness theory, dimensional engineering, and biological optimization that revolutionized understanding of science itself. The Cognitive Diversity Initiative had expanded to include collaborative projects between dozens of species, each contributing unique mental approaches to shared challenges. Within 2 years, galactic civilization was advancing at rates that exceeded the most optimistic projections. Conflicts between species decreased as collaborative problem-solving replaced competitive resource disputes. Trade efficiency increased by factors that required new mathematical frameworks to measure. Scientific discoveries accelerated exponentially as different cognitive approaches combined to tackle problems that had stymied galactic researchers for centuries. But perhaps most importantly, galactic civilization discovered that diversity of thought was not a challenge to be managed, but a resource to be cultivated. The Council's decision to integrate humanity had not just changed the balance of power in galactic politics, it had changed the fundamental understanding of what galactic civilization could become. The panic that had initially gripped the Council when faced with humanity's unexpected capabilities had given way to recognition that those capabilities represented evolution rather than disruption. Galactic civilization had chosen growth over stagnation, collaboration over competition, and diversity over uniformity. Humanity's integration into galactic society became the template for how advanced civilizations could transcend their individual limitations. By embracing cognitive diversity and collaborative innovation, the galaxy had not just gained a new member species, it had discovered a new model for continued advancement that would guide its development for millennia to come. The Galactic Council's initial panic about keeping humanity out of galactic affairs had transformed into enthusiasm for keeping humanity deeply involved in shaping galactic civilization's future. The decision they